Okay, so this is the new starching method I've come up with for my cloth clerical collars. As you can see, the collars are fresh from the laundry, just throw them in with the wash. A couple of times a year I kind of bleach them out, but not this time. Need some Argo gloss starch, something to starch them in, some boiling water. What I'm going to do is make up a really concentrated starch solution and put the collars in it and let them soak it up, dry out a little bit, and then iron them. So here goes. The instructions call for half a cup of starch and almost 2 quarts of water, but I'm going to make it quite a bit stronger than that. So I'm going to take about a 1/4 cup of starch, and then add some cold water. You have to mix it with cold water first, or else it gets really gummed up. What is that, about a 1/4 cup of water, right? Gonna mix it up. Dissolves pretty easily, sort of. Next I'm going to add the boiling water. Probably about a half a cup, I guess. The idea is to make enough starch to saturate all of these collars, but not more. So that's pretty good. Next, I'm going to put the collars in. Water's kind of hot. They've been washed and dried so that will soak up as much of the starch as they can. Actually, that one. I'm going to wash that one again. So the starch almost covers the collars, maybe not quite. I'm going to put the top on and shake it up so that all the collars get starch. Now I think it could be a little more starch, so I'm going to add a little more water. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm going to leave them to soak up the starch for a while. So probably, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour in the refrigerator, which will keep the starch from drying up. Going to put them in the refrigerator for a while and then probably turn it over in about 15 or 20 minutes, just to make sure the collars are as saturated as they can be. Okay, so these have been in here for about an hour or so while I worked on my sermon. Take them out, take a look at them. It's good. There's very little starch left in the bottom, and they're pretty coated. So what I'm going to do is strip off some of the excess starch and then hang them up to dry. I'm not going to dry all the way, but almost. Excess. Can we get just Now we're going to hang them up to dry. Roll them flat so they dry evenly, but doesn't matter how wrinkled they are because we're going to iron them. Brody's a very curious student of the starching method. Right, Brody? Okay, so they're all hung up to dry now. They'll dry for about an hour or two, and just long enough to dry up some of the starch, so they'll be ready to press. So you let them dry till they're pretty damp, but not so damp, because you want them to dry under the heat of the iron. So when they're kind of damp, you iron them with the iron on the highest setting that it'll go, but with no steam, because the point is to sort of dry out and kind of bake the starch. So just press them really slowly. You can leave the iron on them for a pretty good while, several minutes. And this is what makes them really stiff, is the sort of baking the starch, the last bit of the damp starch and the collars. Got to do it on both sides so that both sides get dry. There you go. Just fold them where the natural break. Put them in your collar box. Stop. Sometimes the gradu from the ironing board cover gets on the collars. So you just slip on a pillowcase on the ironing board, and it keeps the starch from sticking to the ironing board. A couple of passes makes it. Just want to make sure that that the collar is dry when you get done. That all the starch is kind of baked and it's dry to the touch. There you go. Then if you don't have a fancy Whipple leather collar box, you can put them in your handy dandy Chinese food container to keep them till you're ready to wear them.